Good evening. My name is Gloria Beauchesne. I'm with the League of Women Voters of Marietta, Cobb. We want to thank you for joining us this evening, both for our speakers, our audience, and our television audience. I'm sure you all are familiar with the League of Women Voters. Tonight's program is on the SPLOST, Special Purpose Local Option Sales Tax. The League has not taken a position on this, but believes in having informed citizens, and that's why the League is sponsoring this forum this evening. I'd like to introduce our speakers, and our format for tonight is a 5-minute opening statement from each of you, please. Then we have questions from the audience that are submitted to various League members who are here this evening, who will pass those questions to me. Each question goes to both of you to answer, and then we'd like to close with asking each of you to give a 3-minute closing statement. So our speakers tonight are Rose Wing, who is with the Citizens for Cobb's Future.
Yes, ma'am.
And Lance Lamberton with the Cobb County Taxpayers Association. So, Ms. Wing, if you could get us started, please, with up to 5 minutes, telling us a little about your group and your position.
Be glad to, Gloria. I first want to thank the League of Women Voters for having us here this evening. We have learned the more educated the citizens of Cobb County is about the SPLOST, the wiser they vote. Also, the citizens of Cobb's Future has learned that more people who learned about the SPLOST and understand about SPLOST 2011 understand that it is a necessity for Cobb's Future. Citizens for Cobb's Future is a group of individuals, over 250, from different aspects of life and work. They, like yourselves, believe in Cobb County and understand the needs of Cobb County. They understand what brings business here, what keeps business here, what brings people to live, work, and learn here. And they understand that what that is, like yourself, is our wonderful public safety, our good roads, our excellent parks and facilities. But they also understand that we get these services and projects at the lowest possible cost for the taxpayers. And not only do we understand that, but the 3 top bonding companies in the nation understand that. And they have given Cobb County a AAA rating. That means that we are in the top 1% of all the counties in the United States, and that's 3,049, as to providing the best services to Cobb County at the lowest tax dollar to its citizens. We are also understand that SPLOST 2011 is the best way to fund for our projects and our facilities. It is not a new tax. It is the same 1%. And that same 1% improves your roads, improves your parks, improves your public safety and facilities. It makes it better than it already is at a 30% reduction to you, because 30% of it is paid by individuals outside of Cobb County. Why is SPLOST the most conservative way to fund for your infrastructure and the economic development and facilities in Cobb County? It is because it provides lower property tax. It is transparent. It is a pay-as-you-go way. It was an opportunity for the citizens to voice their opinion as to what those projects were in Cobb County at 24 meetings. You continue to know what is actually on the SPLOST. You know exactly what you're voting for and what projects you are voting for. And they are available to you today by looking at www.cobbsplost 2011. It is the physical most responsible way of paying for your taxes here, for paying for your services here in Cobb County. And it also still, as I stated, it's paid 30% by individuals outside of Cobb County. There is also a sunset as to when this ends, and that will end on December the 31st of 2015. Also, as I stated, you know as to what those particular projects are, and there will be an oversight committee that makes sure that what you voted for actually is what is covered under the SPLOST. If you do not vote for SPLOST 2011, this is what will take place. Those projects will be deferred to a later date in time and cost us more in the future. You will incur debt at 100% plus interest, and or, God forbid, your property taxes would go up. A vote yes for SPLOST is a vote for Cobb's future. It is a vote to maintain the infrastructure of Cobb County to continue to make it the most viable place to live, learn, and play. Thank you, and I look forward to continuing this discussion this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Lamberton, please.
You know, I've been involved in a few debates in my life, and probably this is the first time in my life that I've actually stood to the left of my opponent. But maybe the content of my discussion will be maybe to the right. I likewise would like to thank the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this forum. I think it is a fine example of the League fulfilling its mission of assisting voters in making a fully informed decision. So again, I thank you. As I see it, there are basically four main issues that shape this debate. How much will the SPLOST cost taxpayers? What are the benefits if the SPLOST is defeated? What are the needs versus the wants in this SPLOST? And how can we go about meeting our needs without it? First, the tax and spend side of this debate will not tell you what it will cost you because it is not in their interest to do so. I will. On average, it will cost Cobb residents $600 or $2,400 for a family of four. You must decide if that is worth the price. Second, having that money in your pocket rather than in the hands of the spending interest will result in significant economic benefits for our local economy. It will take resources away from the public sector and place it in the wealth-creating private sector, creating jobs and opportunity throughout the county. Let us not forget that the fountainhead of wealth creation in the free market is the free market, not government, because government does not make money. Rather, it consumes what taxpayers are forced to pay it. Moreover, in a down economy with record numbers of foreclosures and high unemployment rates, maintaining this tax increase is the wrong prescription for Cobb County. There is no better time than now to cut taxes and jumpstart the economy and relieve us from the economic pain that so many of us are currently suffering. Third, this SPLOST is full of ill-advised and unwarranted wants that are reckless and irresponsible in the face of our current economy. Time will only allow me to scratch the surface of this huge wants list, so here are just a few. Ask yourself, is replacing perfectly usable concession stands and scoreboards in 21 county parks, including Bell's Ferry, which is only 7 years old, a want or a need? Is improving a dog park at Sweat Mountain a want or a need? Is replacing stage curtains at Anderson Park a want or a need? Is spending $27 million to improve access to the Malcolm Airfield a want or a need? Is installing a water feature at Wild Horse Creek Park a want or a need? Is building a new skate park at Logan Farm a want or a need? Is renovating office space at the Barnes Maple House Amphitheater, which has bled millions in red ink since its inception, is that a want or a need? And is building a new amphitheater and plaza at Depot Park a want or a need? And finally, is spending $2 million to study a light rail transit system plunging itself deep into Cobb County a want or a need? Actually, that's a trick question. It is neither. It's an abomination. On the other side of the ledger, ask yourself if paying your mortgage or rent, putting gas in your car, or putting food on the table represents wants or needs. Without this SPLOST, we will be better able to meet those needs, unless, of course, you're one of the out-of-state contractors, lawyers, or bankers who hope to heap another hope to reap another windfall if this SPLOST is passed. Is it any wonder they are pouring tens of thousands of dollars in campaign contributions into the coffers of my opponent's organization in an effort to convince you that a 16.7% cut in your sales tax is somehow in your best interest? The fourth and final point I want to address is how can we meet the needs of the county without a SPLOST? Some of my tax and spend opponents have tried to portray almost an apocalyptic future if SPLOST is not passed, where roads will degenerate to third world standards, our police and fire departments won't have the resources to effectively prevent crime and put out fires, and our parks will revert to a primeval state. Don't you believe it? Before we impose yet another SPLOST, we need to ask ourselves if the county is doing everything in its power to reduce costs so that we can free up resources to pay for legitimate needs without a SPLOST. I was encouraged when, to that end, county commissioners voted to establish an oversight committee to perform a thorough review and audit of county finances on the very day that it voted to put the SPLOST on the ballot. Yet since that time, little or no progress has been made with respect to this committee. 2 months later, members have not been selected, it has yet to meet, and its once stated goal of having a preliminary report in early March is now but a pipe dream. We deserve better than that from our county government. This foot dragging should not be allowed to continue. One can only speculate the reasons. Could it be that the county does not want to make the hard choices that would come from the committee's recommendations, but prefers the easy expedient of a SPLOST, which one county commissioner described as an addiction? I'm getting the 10-second sign here, so I don't think my remarks are going to fit in 10 seconds. So does that mean I have to stop talking? Okay, unfortunately in Cobb County, this special purpose tax has morphed into what I call a GBLOST, a general purpose local option sales tax where proponents want to use it for purposes which go way beyond its original intent, even going so far as advocating its use to repair potholes. As we go into the question and answer portion of this debate, I look forward to fleshing out the points I've made here in this opening statement. As you consider the merits of our respective positions, ask yourself if the cost of this SPLOST justifies its benefits and whether or not you would be better off keeping that money in your own pocket to spend as you see fit. I hope you will agree by the conclusion of this debate that this SPLOST is a bad deal for taxpayers and that you will vote to axe the tax. Thank you.
Excuse me. We need to ask for the audience's cooperation in remaining silent for the benefit of this format and proceeding with our forum here. Let's get started with, this question is for you, Ms. Wing, and then
Yes,
we'll
ma'am.
come to you with the same question, Mr. Lamberton. We are all aware that the SPLOST vote is March 15th.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you explain to us why, well, we have all heard the figure of $400,000 as the cost for this vote. Could you explain to us why this issue was not included in our last November election?
Yes, ma'am, I'd be glad to. And in fact, while we're discussing it, early voting has started this Monday, too. I see that it was not placed on earlier in the November of 2010. It's because we were going through a transition in our leadership right then in Cobb County. It's not a transition that I regret because Cobb County is a county that is very leading in the state, and our leaders are even sought after by the state. After we learned that Sam Owens, who was our chairman, had been picked and was sought after by individuals in the state to lead us in the state of Georgia as our Attorney General. He moved on, and at that point we found further leadership out of East Cobb, and the citizens of Cobb County chose to make Tim Lee our chairman. And at that point we had still a little unstableness then with our seat in East Cobb, and we got the appointment of Theo Powell, which was a wonderful leadership that led us through the SPLOST and helping us get the SPLOST down to basic needs and setting it at a 4-year sunset. So I have no regrets in the fact that it was put over to a time as soon as our leadership was in place, and they started to work on it immediately. And when they started to work on it immediately, it takes work. There had to be 24 meetings to be placed out into the citizens of Cobb County so they could put their input as to those projects. And then there had to be publication of the meetings. So I have no quandary with it being placed over because it had to take time for us to get our good leadership in position, as Cobb County has always had excellent leadership. As to being put over into another time period as to next year into 2012, I truly believe that you need to have informed citizens as to votes. And to have an informed citizenship as to voting, that is to be educated. In 2012, we will be having the presidential election. Everyone will be focusing on that. All parties, Democrats, Republicans, the Tea Party movement will all be focusing on the presidential election. This is important to Cobb County. It's important to Cobb County's future, SPLOST 2011. So it was necessary to put it at a time in which everybody can be educated, just like we are doing tonight, educating you and educating all the citizens in Cobb County as to SPLOST. As to the cost of $400,000, as to the benefit of $492 million, it is worth it to have that educated vote out in Cobb County. And otherwise, it would be a penny wise and a pound foolish. Thank you.
Mr. Lamberton, your thoughts, please.
Well, using Ms. Wing's logic, if we should have a separate election so the voters can focus on this one issue and not let it get confused or muddled with other elections, then why don't we have a separate election for governor and a separate election for senator? And maybe we should have a separate election for state representative, and so on and so forth. In other words, there's an assumption under here that us voters are not intelligent enough to look at a whole raft of issues and make decisions based upon that. I'll tell you what's really behind having this special election of $400,000 and spending $400,000 is because historically, if you have a special election, you have a lower voter turnout. When you have lower voter turnout, you increase the chance of the SPLOST being passed. So this is a political move on the part of my opponents, and that's why they're saddling you with a $400 tax tab. It just defies logic and common sense to have this special election. We could have had it. No, let me go back to the idea about the change in leadership between Sam Olens and Tim Lee. They knew that this SPLOST was going to expire in 2012. You know when they knew that? 6 years ago. Okay? Now, I know that there was a change in leadership and that sometimes that may cause a little bit of a problem with making decisions, but somehow these are two really bright guys and you've got some really sharp people on the commission. I think they could have figured out a way to come up with a SPLOST vote for us in November, which is when everybody would have had an opportunity to get out there and vote rather than holding this special election, which is a political ploy. I'm sorry, I hate to be harsh on this, but that's really what we're dealing with. Thank you.
Thank you. This question then will be for you, Mr. Lamberton. We understand that there are specific purposes for the SPLOST funding. Could you enlighten us what those, the major purposes for the SPLOST funding are?
Well, my understanding of the SPLOST law is that it's a special purpose local option sales tax. That's supposed to be established for special needs. It's not supposed to be something that exists ad infinitum, going on and on like the Energizer bunny rabbit. It's supposed to have a beginning, it's supposed to have an end. Basically, the SPLOST was established with the idea that to accommodate rapid economic growth, where even with economic growth and you have an expansion of the tax base, it may not be quick enough to provide the infrastructure that's needed, and so you may have to sort of jumpstart that funding to get the SPLOST into place. But what's interesting about the SPLOST in this particular scenario is that we haven't had economic growth for the last 3 years. In 2010, there were only 700 new housing starts. And when you look at the attrition in the housing stock, We have actually had a net decline in the number of homes and the number of people who have lived in this county. You go up and down and throughout this county, how many people have you seen strip malls that are in half completion, of subdivisions that are just getting started and then they had to stop because the funding was down? A SPLOST may be a good idea when you have rapid economic growth, but we don't have that right now. We're not going to get it for quite a few years. And so the funding level has to be in accordance with the level of growth that's in the county. And then when you combine that with the fact that all of us are going through very difficult economic times. In fact, in last Friday's Marietta Daily Journal, which comes out every Friday, it lists all the number of foreclosures that are taking place. This is a pretty thick document, folks. These people need help. They're in pain. They're suffering. They don't need a SPLOST right now. Thank you.
And Ms. Wing, please.
Thank you, ma'am. Well, as far as SPLOST, it is the way to fund Cobb County in the conservative way. And these projects, when you are citizens, you vote on them specifically as to those particular projects. Cobb County has received a AAA rating. We are in the top 1% of the most financially secure counties in Cobb County, in the United States. We want to keep it that way because keeping that way brings businesses here. And when you bring businesses here, that brings employment here. And when you bring businesses here, that brings 100 to 1,000 jobs here into this community. And businesses look at us. They look at to how well maintained your infrastructure is and your facilities are. And if they are not well maintained, what happens to your credit? It becomes negative. And your AAA bonding begins to disappear. And when your AAA bonding rate disappears and you're no longer in the top 1% of all the counties in the nation, then the companies look at you and the businesses look at you and they won't come here anymore. They'll go away. They'll actually begin to go away. And then when they go away, people who are moving here will not come and will move away. And then what happens? Your property taxes go up. Your infrastructure continues to deteriorate and you incur debt. And that debt can be incurred at the rate of 100% plus interest. So SPLOST is vital. It is vital to our community. It is vital to Cobb County's future, and it is vital to your future. Thank you.
We have the most questions on this subject, so it's only fair to ask this, and we'll get started with you on this, Ms. Wing. A lot of questions on why do we always seem to have a SPLOST? Is it ever going to end? And some of the questions even infer that it's been around for 25 years when it's a temporary tax. So the question is, can you tell us when you would see that SPLOST would truly be ending and not be enacted? What would those conditions be?
I will tell you. Again, I think the SPLOST is the most conservative way to fund for projects. And in fact, in 1990, our millage rate was over 13%. Our millage rate right now is 9.5. That has gone down since SPLOST. Our millage rate has gone down since SPLOST has been in effect. SPLOST has caused your property taxes to go down. Your millage rate has gone down from the SPLOST came into effect in around 1985. 1990, coming down, it shows that while SPLOST has been in effect, your millage rate has gone down. So SPLOST is the way to keep your property taxes down. And what's even better than having to pay higher property taxes, SPLOST allows you to see what you're actually spending your money on. You know exactly the projects that your money is going to be spent on. SPLOST is the way in which it attracts businesses here to Cobb County because they understand that a quality of life at low tax is meaningful to them and meaningful to their employees and is meaningful to you too.
To you, Mr. Lamberton.
Well, I agree with Ms. Wing that having lower taxes improves the quality of one's life, but I don't quite see how the imposing a SPLOST is the way to go on that. In fact, I noticed that in her written articles and here in this forum, she's talking about SPLOST as being the conservative way to go, and it kind of reminds me what Ronald Reagan said to Jimmy Carter, there you go again. Because conservatism, as I understand it, is for lower taxes and less government spending. The SPLOST is for what? I mean, I think that answers itself. And as far as the millage rate going down, I mean, I don't believe that the millage rate will go up if a SPLOST is defeated, because there are 3 commissioners that are running for re-election soon, and I would not want to be one of those and vote for a millage increase. But also there's something else that you need to know about millage rates and the SPLOST. What the SPLOST does is it expands infrastructure. Expanding infrastructure requires more money to maintain it. So you're putting pressure on the millage rates to expand the infrastructure. If you own a Cadillac, it costs more to maintain than a Ford or a Chevrolet. If you own a larger house, it takes more money to heat it and to cool it. I mean, it just is counterintuitive to say that if we have the SPLOST, but we're going to have the millage rates. There's many counties that have had SPLOST go up and then the millage rate goes up. That happened just recently in Douglas County. So don't buy it. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you. You have touched on this subject of the how SPLOST funds are used. The question is, on past SPLOST funds, how can we taxpayers determine how those funds were used and if they were appropriately used? What resources can we go to for that information? If we could start with you, Mr. Lamberton.
Well, my understanding is that there is an oversight committee that reviews this funding and tries to ascertain whether or not the funds are used and the projects that are completed. So that's not really an issue. I mean, obviously there is oversight. There has to be oversight, just like there'd be oversight for any kind of major capital outlays. That's, I think, the short answer to that.
And do you know if those records are available to us, the taxpayers?
Well, I'm not part of that group. I would think that Ms. Wing would probably be better able to answer that, quite frankly.
Okay, let's go to you, Ms. Wing.
There is an oversight committee that oversees how the SPLOST funds are utilized. And it's very obvious that we are utilizing those funds appropriately, or we would not be in the top 1% of all the counties in the United States is being financially secure in providing those services to their citizens at the lowest possible rate. And as far as obtaining that information, I'm sure you can contact anyone who's pertaining to that information. But let's just recall and go back to the major fact that Cobb County is providing you those services at the lowest possible rate, at the lowest tax of any county in the metro area. We have the lowest sales tax and the lowest property tax in the metropolitan Atlanta area. And we actually have the lowest sales tax in the state of Georgia. And don't forget that when we are having this SPLOST and these services are being paid, they're being paid at a 30% discount to you as the citizens of Cobb County. So the main thing is to remember that Cobb County is financially responsible. We have been recognized by the bonding companies as being physically responsible to the citizens of Cobb County, providing them for their needs at the lowest possible cost.
Can I respond to that?
Let's stick with our format here.
Okay.
Specifically, do you know what the sales tax rates are of the metropolitan Atlanta counties and how Cobb County compares?
Yes, Atlanta and Fulton County have a 7%. Douglas County has a 7%. Paulding County has a 7% sales tax. And Gwinnett County shares a 6% sales tax with us. So of all the counties in the metropolitan Atlanta area, we do have the lowest sales tax along with Gwinnett County. However, Gwinnett County does have a 13.25 millage rate where we have a 9.5.
Thank you. Mr. Lamberton, do you have any comments on that?
Yes, I think that in a way Ms. Winks kind of made my argument for me in a backhanded way, because she talks about the virtue and value of having lower taxes as providing a better quality of life, and so why not make a good thing better? Bring it down to 5%, and then we'll be an economic engine in the metropolitan area. We'll be attracting businesses. We'll be attracting consumers to come from other counties to spend their money here. It'll be a creation of private sector jobs, which are permanent and not on a project by project basis like they would be with the SPLOST. So, I think it's great that we have a low millage rate. I think it would be greater if we had a lower sales tax.
All right, Mr. Lamberton, you have led into what will be our next question. How do you believe SPLOST impacts jobs in Cobb County?
Well, I think it has indirectly, it has an adverse effect. I think the way the SPLOST functions is very much like President Obama's stimulus package. How's that been working for you? You take money away from the taxpayers, you funnel it into the hands of builders and contractors, what I call the concrete lobby, and you basically you're targeting that money and you're taking it away from the private sector. And I think I made that point in my opening remarks, is that the engine of wealth in any society, in any free market economy, is the private sector. That's where the innovation is. That's where the jobs are created. Is there a role to play for government? Of course there is. They have to provide the infrastructure so that commerce can function. It has to provide the safety so that people can be safe and secure in their persons and in their property. So obviously there's an important role for government to play. But when it comes to wealth creation and economic growth, it's not government that does that. What you do in a down economy, and what we did when I was in the Reagan administration, is that you cut taxes to stimulate the economy. It worked very well. In 1982, under President Reagan, we were suffering under the most severe recession before this one that we're currently in. And by 1984, he won in a landslide where only one state voted against him in the Electoral College, and that was in Minnesota, which was Walter Mondale's state. So obviously, using supply-side economic concepts, that is what I'd like to see applied here in Cobb County to create the economic growth. I hope I've answered your question.
Thank you. And Ms. Wing, please.
I'd be glad to answer that question, but I first want to respond to Mr. Lamberton's statement pertaining to federal government. I agree. I feel that we need to cut federal government and cut those taxes out of federal government and bring it back to the local government and bring it back to the states and the local government, where you are paying for the services that you are personally using here, as opposed for paying taxes or paying aspects into the federal government where you don't know where it's going. Yes, I believe big government should be cut at that federal level and get it back to where the people who are paying the taxes are utilizing the money for the services that they are actually utilizing. Now, as for the economy itself, yes, it brings jobs. SPLOST brings jobs into Cobb County. Businesses look for quality of life at the lowest possible tax rate. That's why they look at Cobb County. That's why we are one of the most growing counties, not only in the state, but in the nation. When they look at us, they look at our AAA bonding rating. They look at the fact that we provide the best services at the lowest possible cost for the citizens, and that we provide those services at 30% reduction to you as the citizens of Cobb County. When they come here and bring their business here to Cobb County, they are bringing jobs to Cobb County too. So when you're talking about saving that amount of money to pay for people that are unemployed, I'd rather put them back to work. I'd rather put them back to work by having SPLOST 1 penny on a dollar that also pays for sidewalks, roads, our infrastructure, and makes us the most viable county to live, work, and play in, not only in the metro Atlanta area, but also in the state of Georgia. And for that reason, SPLOST provides the economy and provides jobs.
Thank you. You have touched on this in previous answers, but let's go ahead and ask you how Cobb County's bond rating relates to the SPLOST vote. So if we could start with you again, Ms. Wing.
Okay, the AAA bond rating?
That's right.
Okay. As I had stated earlier, companies look at us. They look, when they're looking at where they want to go to, or where individuals want to move to or live in, they're looking for a quality of life. They're looking at, particularly companies are looking at a quality of life that is provided at a low cost. And it has been determined that these AAA bonding companies look at how you are maintaining your infrastructure and your facilities. And if we don't pass SPLOST, we will not be able to maintain our infrastructure and facilities that will make us a desirable place to continue to live, work, and play in. And if we do not pass the SPLOST, it will have an effect on those companies coming here. It will have an effect on our rating as a AAA rating, because we are no longer providing those services at the best possible cost. Because once we lose that AAA rating, then businesses begin to go away, people begin to go away, and then what happens? Those that are still here, your property tax begins to go up, and there's also deterioration in your infrastructure.
Mr. Lamberton?
I think there's a misnomer here to assume that if we don't pass the SPLOST that our AAA rating is going to go down. For one thing, if we don't pass the SPLOST, we won't have to go into the capital markets to spend millions and millions of dollars on wants and wish lists versus needs. There was once upon a time, a fairly long period of time in Cobb County's history when we didn't have a SPLOST and the AAA rating did not go down. And it was during a period of substantial economic growth. We don't always have to have a SPLOST. I get the impression that my opponent would like to see a SPLOST that is always continuing, and that you can't envision the idea of us ever taking a break, especially during an economic downturn, of not having a SPLOST. The SPLOST is an extra layer of taxation upon us, and we need to figure out ways to get our needs met without having this tax burden placed upon us and being continued, and giving ourselves a much needed 16.7% sales tax cut. So I think that there's a very strong misnomer here about the AAA rating going down. It's not going to happen. We're not going to be in the capital markets nearly as much because we won't have these projects that we'll be funding. And think about the years that we did not have SPLOST during a period of high economic growth in the county. Did you feel that your quality of life was suffering? I didn't, but I did notice that my taxes, that everything that I purchased once they passed the 2005 SPLOST, everything went up.
We have all heard that sales tax are paid approximately 30% by non-Cobb County residents. Could you give us some support for that? Do you know the origin of that statement?
You're asking me to support that?
Yes, sir. This question goes to both of you, and we'll start with you.
I'm chomping at the bit on that question.
Okay. You have heard that figure?
Well, yes, no. My opponent has been touting a 30% figure, and I really don't think that it holds up. It's based upon an Auburn University study done in 2003, and here's something that people don't know about. That study was based upon taxes that were collected in counties other than Cobb. Also, there's no accurate way that you can determine how much money is coming out, because if you're driving from another county and you stop in a store and you make a purchase and you pay a sales tax, how can you possibly know where that money came from? Did it come from a Paulding County resident, or did it come from a Cobb County resident? There's no accurate way to know, so I think that 30% is something that's just being pulled from the air. In fact, in all likelihood, it's probably a lot less than 30%. But the point is, let's say it's 20%, whatever, the overwhelming majority of the burden of the tax is placed upon Cobb County residents, because people who come from Paulding County don't pay the SPLOST on their electric bill, their utility bill, their gas bill, their phone bill. So obviously we're paying a major share of that, and I really challenge the assumption that's being made, and it's been stated by county government and by proponents of this SPLOST. I think that 30% is just not a sustainable or supportable number.
Thank you. Ms. Wing, could you enlighten us on the source of that 30% from non-Cobb County residents?
Yes, ma'am, I'd be glad to, and I'd like to comment on, as far as pertaining to misinformation from Mr. Lamberton as to that, and also as to the aspect of the SPLOST not correlating to our AAA rating. In fact, we've been having that AAA rating for 14 years. That would have gone back to 1997. SPLOST had been in effect during that time period in which we had received AAA rating. So there is a direct correlation with SPLOST as to our AAA rating. Also, as to the study of the 30% paying for our sales tax in Cobb County, that was a study conducted by Auburn University. It was conducted, and I state, if anything, that has gone up than having gone down since it was conducted just a few years ago back. Because in Cobb County, as you look to areas of Cobb County like Ackworth, where it has been developed so much, and western part of Cobb County out toward the avenues and going westward toward Paulding, it has further developed, and you can know that and have observed the fact that Paulding County is coming in there and utilizing our entertainment and utilizing our roads. I will further state, and having learned from the commissioner in Paulding County, that 72% of the citizens in Paulding County leave Paulding County every day. And they contend that most of them are coming into Cobb County. They are utilizing our roads and utilizing our services, and they should help us pay for those roads and their services here in Cobb County.
Thank you. Could you give us an estimate on what the estimated cost is to each taxpayer resident of Cobb County if SPLOST is enacted?
Well, ma'am, what it is exactly as it is 1 penny on every dollar. And whatever anyone pays, there is that 1 penny on every dollar. And now that 1 penny on every dollar provides you better public safety, better roads that are secure, better roads for better sidewalks for the safety of our children, and I'd be willing to pay 1 penny on the dollar to save any child's life. Better parks, better facilities, all of that for 1 penny on the dollar, maintaining our infrastructure, maintaining our future, and continuing to make us the most desirable place to live and learn, and continuing to make us the most competitive county in the state and in the metropolitan Atlanta area, and also keeping us as the most 1% of all the counties in the United States financially secure. It is worth 1 penny on the dollar.
Mr. Lamberton, do you have an estimate on that cost to each?
Yeah, my answer is going to be a little shorter than Ms. Wing. $600 per person for 4 years. There's $2,400 for a family of 4. In this economic climate where people are really struggling to make ends meet, there's high unemployment, you got high rate of foreclosures, you got a high level of bankruptcies. People need to make choices between that money that they can control and they can use for however they see fit to put gas in their car, like I mentioned in my opening remarks. What can I say?
Would you know the source of that estimate of $600 per year per person?
Brett, we should have gotten together before on this.
Okay.
We took number of residents, and then we calculated what the spending would be per person, how much they spend in the economy based upon median income. I don't have that economic formulation with me, but I can stand by it, and I'm willing to provide that subsequent to this.
Thank you.
Okay.
This question is for you, Mr. Lamberton. Do you believe there's a correlation between SPLOST and the property tax millage rates historically in Cobb County?
Well, I mean, there's an assumption and there's a threat that if we don't have a SPLOST, then the millage rate's automatically going to go up, and it has to go up. And I don't think that historically has not been the case. Ms. Wing was talking about the AAA bond rating going back to 1997, and during a major hunk of that time, we didn't have this countywide SPLOST, and yet the rating stayed up. It really has to do with how efficient and how effective you want to operate county government, and not always look to the easy expedient of just giving the government more money. There's loads and loads of think tanks out there. In fact, when I met with Chairman Lee, I talked about the private sector initiatives that took place in the Reagan administration, where captains of industry came together and recommended $475 billion worth of cost-cutting reductions in the federal government by applying private sector practices to the operations of the public sector. So there's lots of ways that we can be creative and think outside the box. I'm sure all of you, if you think about things that you see in Cobb County, you may say, isn't that wasteful? Isn't it wasteful to have the number 30 bus rolling down Austell Road at 8 o'clock in the evening with 2 passengers in it? Couldn't we use a jitney for that? I mean, there's just so many creative ways that we can think about how we can save money. There's this book called Cutting Back City Hall, and a number of other excellent academic works that have been done to show the county that we can lead the way, we can lead the nation as the most effective and most efficiently run county government in the country. Not that we're not doing a good job, we're doing a good job relative to other counties and other states, but why should we limit ourselves to how good a job we're doing now? Why can't we do an even better job? I think we can.
And to you, Ms. Wing.
Yes, ma'am. There is a direct correlation as to property taxes going down as the SPLOST is going into effect. And as I had showed you earlier, in 1990, our millage rate was over 13%. Now, it is at 9.5. SPLOST went into effect in the latter 1980s. That is a direct correlation as to your millage rate going into effect and SPLOST being here. The other thing that is very obvious, as I stated earlier, and again Mr. Lamberton continues to misstate the facts, that is in 1997 we've had it for 14 years, our AAA rating. In 1997, our millage rate was over 10. As we further reduced our millage rate, our sales tax went down too. Excuse me, our sales tax, as we had our sales tax, our millage rate went down to 9.5. And to state that, yes, we are not perfect. Cobb County is not perfect, but we are in the top 1% of the financially secure counties in the nation. And we are providing the proper services to you at the lowest possible cost at a 30% reduction to you and the citizens of Cobb County. We need to have this tax to continue to be viable. If we do not have the tax, our infrastructure will begin to fail. Our facilities will not be as good as they are now. We'll lose that AAA bonding, and businesses will not be coming here. Our commissioners are doing their best and working hard and keeping our millage rate down and trimming our budget, our general budget. They have cut to 3% of what it was last year. They're fighting hard to keep our AAA bonding. in keeping us in the top 1% of financially secure counties in the nation. But it is now our job to take responsibility too and vote yes for SPLOST to keep our property taxes down and make us viable for companies to come here to provide the proper services that we all enjoy and need. That 1% provides us proper sidewalks, proper public safety, 5 engine trucks for the fire department, 4 ladder trucks, equipment that is life-saving to you and your family, defibrillators that are proper that can monitor your heart as they are shocking your heart to get it back beating again. There are equipment saving your life, saving your children's life and your family's life as far as extrication equipment. All this is vital. It saves seconds, minutes on a life. And you are willing not to pay 1 penny to save a child's life, to provide better extrication equipment to save lives, to provide better roads, safer ways to travel on our roads, to make them safer for our community. Because you may want to have a curtain in your house. What you are doing for 1 penny not only helps you, but helps 699,000 other people to have a better quality of life. Thank you.
Ms. Swing, we have a few questions on whether the SPLOST funds are proposed to be used for new improvements or for maintaining existing improvements. And the question that goes with that is, if new improvements are made, what is the source of funding for maintaining those improvements? So if you could comment, please, on whether SPLOST is for new improvements or maintenance, and if new improvements, how would those improvements be maintained?
Okay. SPLOST is going to capital improvements. 82% of the SPLOST is for capital improvements. That is for resurfacing, maintaining, to do facilities. It's for capital improvement. Nearly 18% is for building of new construction. Now, as for operation, nothing in here will affect the operation or having additional people or employment as for particular county employees, as to like parks, the improvement in parks or the improvement in the swim community or building an additional swimming area. That's not going to add to additional parks people there. In fact, the parks department employees have been reduced in the past few years. So as to the funding of these they will come from the general fund. And these, again, as I stated, these are vital necessities for the citizens of Cobb County to continue to make Cobb County viable and competitive to people come in here to live, work, and play, and to industries coming in.
Thank you. Mr. Lamberton?
Well, I just want to go back to something that Ms. Wing was talking about with needing this SPLOST. We're currently in a SPLOST right now, raising approximately $840 million. There's a lot of money that's out there and has been going out there for a long time to deal with capital improvements, to deal with infrastructure. It doesn't have to be something that is going to be continuous and never stop. I get the impression that Ms. Wing would like to have a perpetual SPLOST. So we'll call it the special perpetual SPLOST. There comes a time when we need to take a breather in this current economy, and I think to suggest that if you don't pass the SPLOST, you're endangering the lives of citizens is a little bit of a stretch, because there's so much in this SPLOST which is wasteful, which is a wish list instead of a needs list, and that if we really want to focus on what the needs are in this community, we don't have to have a SPLOST. We simply need to do business better than we have been doing. And the percentage of of projects that are true needs within this SPLOST is a very small percentage. I mean, as I say, we could be here for hours going through each project, but I mean, my mind was boggled at the extravagance and the wastefulness and the unnecessity of having some of these projects. I mean, a light rail system in Cobb County, please.
This question is to both of you, of course, and Mr. Lamberton first. There is some concern in these questions about who are the members of each of your groups and how much they have contributed. Is there a public source of information on the members of each of your groups?
According to the State Ethics Commission, our organization is required to do a filing of expenditures and disclosures, what we spend money on and what we take in, and it's required that anything that we receive over $101 has to be disclosed. The overwhelming majority of our contributions are less than that. In fact, we only got one contribution over $101. But our members are just citizen taxpayers. You know, we have about 100 people, and we're also supported by the Georgia Tea Party, which represents about 2,000 people. Thank you, folks. And there are other groups out there that support us. But we're basically we get very small contributions from individual taxpayers. We don't get large donations like $25,000 or $5,000 or $10,000 that my opponent's organization is getting. And you do have to see that there is a cause and effect relationship between that type of contribution and what they want to get out of this and what individual taxpayers want to get out of it.
Thank you. I'm sorry, if we could ask the audience to please be respectful. Ms. Wing?
Yes, ma'am. Well, we also have supporters. We have the Citizens of Cobb's Future, which is 250 plus individuals who are just like yourselves, work in the community, are parts of the community, are civic and community leaders, and are involved in our community. We also have the Cobb Chamber. The Marietta Business Association has endorsed us. The South Cobb Arts Alliance has endorsed the SPLOST. Leadership Cobb Alumni Association has supported the SPLOST and endorsed it. The Town Center Community Improvement District has supported the SPLOST. The Cumberland Community Improvement District is supporting the SPLOST. Yes, there are people contributing to the SPLOST because they believe in the future of Cobb County. They understand the needs of Cobb County. They understand the importance for SPLOST to pass to Cobb County to provide for better roads, public safety, facility, and parks, because it makes us the most viable county in the metro Atlanta area, while still keeping us at the lowest tax rate in the metropolitan area. These contributors understand that. They support us. They support Cobb's Future. And that is all I have to say as far as pertaining to that. They are great supporters of us and believe in Cobb County and the future of Cobb County.
Is that information available?
Oh, yes. We have filed with the Ethics Commission. We filed a long time ago with the Ethics Commission, and you may go there and you can look right there on the computer and find us right on the computer, and you can find it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
What's the website?
You go to the commission, Ethics Commission. It now has changed its name and is a
State Ethics Commission.
State
Yeah.
Ethics Commission, but
Yeah.
it's now has a longer title pertaining to transparency. But you can go to the State Ethics Commission.
All right, this question is for you, Ms. Wing. We'll
Yes,
start
ma'am.
with you, that is. What do you believe will happen if the SPLOST vote fails?
I'll tell you what I think will happen. Our infrastructure would deteriorate. It would deteriorate, and we would be, and it would cost more for the future, into the future of Cobb County. Further, we would incur debt. We would incur debt at the rate of 100% plus interest. Or our property tax would go up. If this was to happen, then what would happen to our AAA bond rating? We would lose it. Because people look and businesses look as to how our infrastructure is maintained and how our facilities are maintained. If they are not properly maintained, our credit goes down. Then as it goes down, businesses are no longer will no longer find us desirable to locate. People will not find us as desirable to locate in. Business will go away, and individuals will move away. It will begin a spiraling effect in Cobb County. It may, in effect, cause our property taxes also to go up. I hate to say it, but it is an obvious response to it because we got to maintain this infrastructure. Our roads in Cobb County are dependent at 98.5% dependent upon SPLOST. If we do not pass SPLOST, our roads will be in deterioration. That will affect our economy. It will affect your property value. It will affect tourism. It will affect, which is one of our largest businesses in Cobb County. It will affect, if our roads deteriorate, our 4 university systems because they will not, their property value will go down and they will not be as accessible. Remember, 98.5% of the SPLOST pertains to the funding. 98.5% of the roads are dependable on SPLOST passing. If they deteriorate, so does our economy and so does your property value.
Mr. Lamberton, please.
When I told you they were going to talk to you about Armageddon if the SPLOST doesn't pass, I wasn't kidding. But I think it's not very credible. We didn't have the SPLOST before 2005, remember? We went for a number of years where we didn't have the SPLOST. I lived here at the time. And the infrastructure did not fall into this horrible abyss that Ms. Wing is alluding to. Our AAA rating was high during that period. We didn't incur any extra debt because we weren't spending inordinate amounts of money on projects that, quite frankly, should not be started in the first place. I don't know what else to say. I mean, I just think that the picture that Ms. Wing is painting is trying to scare you. And as far as property taxes go up, you have the power to prevent that from happening. You vote for the commissioners. They're the ones who decide whether the millage rate goes up, right? So don't let them do it. And remember, I just want to go back to the point that I made before. If you expand infrastructure, then you have to expand the amount of money that it takes to upkeep it. And if the economy is growing and more people are coming into the county, you're expanding the tax base. The automatic expansion of the tax base takes care of the infrastructure. SPLOST is supposed to be for special needs project and not for potholes, folks.
I'm sorry, I need to ask the audience to refrain from any comments or noises, please. I would like to point out that to obtain the membership of each of these groups on the internet, on the web, you could go to ethics.georgia.gov and obtain that information. We have had a lot of comment this evening on needs versus wants being included in the SPLOST projects. So I'd like to ask each of you to comment on that and perhaps some examples. I believe it's to you, Mr. Lamberton.
The question is to me about needs versus wants. Well, I'm not the one who's really behind the project list, and I'm the one who's sort of like being rather skeptical about the many wants versus needs. I mean, obviously there are some needs in this, but there's a preponderance of wants, which I listed in my opening remarks that I think are not viable. We're looking to county government to do things that the private sector should do. There's a lot of entertainment venues like skate parks and dog runs and sidewalks and bicycle paths that don't get used very much. I mean, it's just not a good use of our money. I mean, I brought with me a copy. Anybody get the entertainment book? It's really good. They got a lot of great discounts in here. And in one very thick section, they have an entertainment and sports section. You've got putt-putt golf there. You've got bowling alleys. You've got, here in Cobb County, we've got one of the best water parks in the southeast. We've got Six Flags. There's lots and lots of stuff that the private sector and the nonprofit private sector provides us in the way of entertainment and recreation. I'm not to say that the county doesn't have a role, but the county really shouldn't be competing with the private sector in areas where the private sector can do the job and do it at a profit and not ask Peter to pay for Paul for their entertainment and their recreation. Thank you.
Ms. Wing, please.
Yes, ma'am. When the county started looking at SPLOST 2011, they went to the citizens of Cobb County. They held 24 meetings. The citizens of Cobb County had input as into the projects that they wanted in their community. I'm not going to say everyone in this room is going to agree with 100% of all the projects. Because when you're looking at the projects, you're probably looking at what's in your particular community as compared to the next person in the other community. I was with someone the other day that was I was in a group of people and someone said, well, I don't find that particular project, but then the other person says, but I do. So you may not agree with 100% of it, but you don't throw the baby out because you don't agree with all of it. You know, and I was sitting here thinking about it, that when it was first discussed about the 6-year SPLOST, and there was a group saying that they wanted to reduce to 4. And then when it got to 4, you said you wanted to reduce it to 3. Well, let me tell you, at 3%, you agree with 75% of the SPLOST, of which 30% of it is paid by citizens outside of Cobb County, of which I say that's a pretty good return on that 5%. Why would you throw out, if you agree with 75% of the SPLOST, with 30% being paid by individuals outside of Cobb County, when you agree with 75% of it? It doesn't make good sense. It doesn't make good business sense. And as I stated, 30% of it is paid by the citizens, by people outside of Cobb County. And I want to mention one other thing as we're talking about what is needs and necessities. Read an article just the other day, going back and reading some articles that I read by James Bell, which is my understanding has been working with your group, and he had been involved with the SPLOST in Douglas County the first time when it passed, this last time it passed in Douglas County. But he was talking about 2005, and that he blamed the commissioners of Douglas County for the deteriorating roads that they have presently in Douglas County, when he actively fought against the SPLOST. Boy, I don't want to ever hear anything like that being said if that SPLOST didn't pass and they put the blame on the commissioners of Cobb County when you've actively worked against it. And I will tell you, the citizens of Cobb's future understand that it's viable, and people like the citizens of Cobb's future understand that SPLOST is viable to our future, and that 1 penny on the dollar means many things. It means those good sidewalks, those good roads, that excellent public safety, those fire engines, that extra equipment that saves lives. We understand that. We understand what those are the needs of Cobb County. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have a lot of questions about specific items being funded through SPLOST, and I don't think those are items that are appropriate for either of you, so I think we will move on from those. And Let me see if we can close with this question. We have a lot of comments about these are down times and difficult times for our Cobb County citizens and taxpayers. And there's a thought that the sales tax might be more burdensome to those on the lower income scales. So the question is, are there alternate funding sources that you envision that could raise more money for Cobb County in lieu of a SPLOST tax? So if we could start with you, Ms. Wing, do you have any other proposals, or tell us why you support this proposal?
Again, as I had stated, SPLOST is the most conservative method of providing for our services for Cobb County. It is a pay-as-you-go. Everyone participates in it, not only just the property owners, but everyone. And you get it at 30% of the discount because it's paid by citizens outside of Cobb County too. It is the best method because you know exactly what you're paying for. There is an oversight committee that makes sure that penny is being spent the way that you voted on for it to be spent. There is a time period in which it ends. So yes, it is the most conservative way. I don't see any more conservative method of funding than that. It has proven to be the most conservative way to fund. That's why I don't mean to keep going back, but it plays a vital role in us being in the top 1% of all the counties in the United States, because we didn't get there without the SPLOST. We didn't get that AAA rating until SPLOST came in effect and help us to provide the best services to the citizens of Cobb County at the lowest tax rate of any county in the metropolitan Atlanta area.
Thank you. Mr. Lamberton, do you have any thoughts on any
Yeah, I've got a lot of thoughts on this one. I mean, if this is the conservative way to go, then for the first time in my life, I'm going to say that I'm a liberal. I mean, here's the problem with the SPLOST is that yeah, there are some valid needs that need to be addressed, but there is a certain amount of money that over 4 years the county is going to get. So what the committee that supports this is they want to backhoe and fill in that amount and fill it with a lot of frivolous and ridiculous projects, which I outlined in my opening remarks. So what we really should do if we're going to have a SPLOST at all is do it the other way. Find out what the needs are and then attach a price tag to it, and not say, okay, we're going to get this much money in 4 years, so let's figure out some way to spend it. And you know, there's a lot of talk about accountability and transparency. Well, here's an item that really concerns me. In 2005, there was a Tier 2 project at Trickham Road, and it was to add a turn signal at a cost of $465,000. Now, in the 2011 SPLOST, the exact same project, is now going for $759,000. That causes me some concern as to how we are managing these SPLOST projects. Where are the estimates and projections for why a project cost this much money 5 years ago and now it costs 50% more this year? I think there's a real credibility gap here, and that's why we need that oversight committee really badly. And if Chairman Lee is in this room right now, I want to plead with you, get that committee going. We need it. Thank you.
Yes, I see Chairman Lee here. So with that, we'd like to close. I'm not sure that either of you have much to add. I think we've heard most of your points. We understand your positions, but if you'd like to take a couple minutes for a summary or to stress your points, this is your opportunity. So Ms. Wing, if we could start with you.
I'd be glad to. I want to thank the opportunity to speak about Cobb's future and your future, because the passage of SPLOST 2011 is a vote for your future. The Board of Commissioners are doing their part to make Cobb County the most valuable place to live, work, learn, and play, while keeping it at the lowest possible cost to the citizens of Cobb County. They have, in fact, this year cut the general budget fund by almost 3% from last year. While we are also having our property tax is not as high as it was too, but they are maintaining to keep our property tax at the same level, and that level is the lowest in the metropolitan Atlanta area. They are diligently working to keep us at our AAA rating, to keep us at that top 1% of the financially secure counties in the nation, to continue to make us viable for people to come here and live and play and work in Cobb County, and for bringing businesses here in Cobb County. But now, it is our time as citizens to step up to the plate for the sake of Cobb County and for your future. It is now our responsibility to also keep the property tax low by voting for SPLOST, by making sure that our roads are maintained, because our roads are 98.5% dependent upon SPLOST. If we do not keep SPLOST, it will affect our economy, it will affect our infrastructure, because if we do not have good roads, good infrastructure, and good facilities, we could lose that AAA rating. It'd give us a negative rating. It would keep businesses from coming here. It would keep additional tourism from coming here if our roads are not in proper condition. If our roads deteriorate, our property value goes down. All these are reasons for you to vote for SPLOST, to vote for the future of Cobb, and to vote for your future. But also remember that when you are voting for SPLOST, that 30% of it is a deduction from you. 30% of it is paid by people outside of Cobb County. As I stated, 72% of the individuals in Paulden leave Paulden every day. They're coming through Cobb County. We need to make sure that they are paying for our roads and their services that they are utilizing. If we don't pass SPLOST, our infrastructure would deteriorate and cost us more in the future. We would incur debt. That debt would be at 100% plus interest, and God forbid, but our property rates could go up. As that happens, as I stated, we begin to lose that AAA rating. We cease to be the 1% of the most secure financial counties in the nation. Our businesses go away, our tourism goes away, and you, the property taxpayers, property tax will more than likely go up. I'd like to share with you that 11 counties last year voted on SPLOST. 11 counties passed it. We don't want to be behind the 8 ball. When the economy turns around and have to play catch up with our neighbors. We have always been the best. We have always provided the best services at the lowest possible cost to the citizens of Cobb County. We have been the best county to live, work, play, and learn, and at the lowest possible cost to the taxpayers. Let's keep it that way. Let's vote yes for SPLOST, for Cobb's future, and for your future.
Thank you. Mr. Lamberton, if we could hear your final remarks, please.
Thank you. Supporters of the 2011 SPLOST are quick to say that if you vote against extending this tax, Cobb's infrastructure will fall apart, Our kids won't have any place to play, and Armageddon will ensue. That's what they said about all three versions that began at $750 million and ended at their estimated $492 million edition. The Commission's $250 million in cuts over a period of just 3 weeks should tell you that this SPLOST has always been based on a wish list that is focused not on the needs of Cobb County, but on maximizing the dollar amount that can be gleaned from citizens like you, and then plugging in as many projects as possible with little regard or need for urgency. That's not a SPLOST, folks, that's a slush fund. SPLOST supporters will tell you that SPLOST projects will encourage business to come to Cobb County, but they won't tell you that lowering the sales tax by 16.7% will do the same thing, while putting that money in your pocket to decide your own spending priorities. They will also tell you that 30% of SPLOST funding comes from outside the county. I mean, they've said it over and over. Perhaps, but think how much more business will come from outside the county if our sales tax rate is 5% instead of 6%. And 5% versus 7%. It's pretty substantial. But despite what they tell you, you need only to consider two things. First, does the quality and urgency of the projects list warrant your footing the bill for a $500 to $600 million boondoggle? Second, is this level of spending by Cobb County appropriate while nearly 10% of Cobb citizens are unemployed and the county has one of the highest foreclosure rates in the nation? Or would a sales tax cut be more appropriate at this time? It's important for you to remember that when you vote against the 2011 SPLOST, you are actually voting yourself a 16.7% sales tax cut that would free up your hard-earned dollars to do important things like making a car payment, or buying a month's worth of groceries, or paying down credit card debt. You see, while at first glance this tax may seem small, it would amount to about $600 for each Cobb resident, or $2,400 for an average family of 4. That's a lot of money, especially when you're out of work. Before you vote, consider what's more important to you: a water feature in a park or paying your water bill, replacing the stage curtains at a Cobb County theater, or being able to afford curtains in your own home, $2 million worth of transportation studies, or buying gas for the family car, 21 new scoreboards at Cobb Parks, or taking your kids to a ball game. Your vote on March 15th will determine which of these things your money will buy over the next 4 years. But your voice will not be heard unless you vote. And we urge you to vote no. Axe the tax. Thank you.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So with that, we're going to conclude our forum tonight. The League would like to thank the Cobb County Taxpayers Association, the Citizens for Cobb's Future, and the representatives that have spoken on their behalf tonight. This is being televised on TV 23, and it will be retelevised Saturday the 26th at 1 p.m. So with that, we conclude this night's forum. Thank you very much.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters.
Rose?